Finally live. Fuck. That was weird. Didn't mean to go offline there for a second. Let's get this stream going. Let's give Instagram a shout and all the other channels a shout to let everyone know. Hey, what's up, everyone? You're looking up at the clock. It's 11:28. We are live on Twitch, YouTube, and TikTok. We are talking about the best teams to never win a ring, such as the '08 Cardinals, or I should say the '09 Cardinals. My bad. Shit. I think it's the '09 Cardinals. Hey, what's up, everyone? Look at the clock. It's 11:28 here, and we are live on Twitch, YouTube, and TikTok. We are talking about the best teams in sports history that never won a ring, such as the 92-93 Phoenix Suns with the MVP Charles Barkley, talking about the 2000s Blazers, talking about the 2002 Kings, talking about the '04 Lakers, the 2001 Yankees, the 2001 Mariners, the '90s Braves. Some of those teams didn't end up winning. The '99 Padres, Tony Gwynn. Like, we're talking about a lot of different teams tonight. So tune in. Tell me the team that broke your heart the most. If you were a fan of that team, or maybe you were just rooting for that team. Either way, pop in, come say hello. I love you all. God bless. Peace. Dude, I hate this so much some days. This stupid computer has a brain of its own. Type all that for nothing. Hey, what up, Instagram? I'm the Ru802. Check a look at the clock, 11:30. We are live on TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch. We're talking about the best teams to never win a ring. We're talking about the '04 Lakers. We're talking about some of the '90s Braves squads that had some of the best pitching we've ever seen. The 2001 Mariners. We have the '94 Expos we are going to talk about that got derailed by the baseball strike. Very unfortunate. Um, but yeah, let's talk. Tell me the team that broke your heart the most. Peace out. Let's get back into there. Hey, M Dog 420, how you doing, my friend? It's good to see you. We're talking about the best teams that never won a ring in their respective sports. First team I want to spotlight tonight, a team that actually lost to my favorite team, the Los Angeles Lakers tonight, which was the 2000 Portland Trailblazers. Right off the bat, I'll tell you right now, probably one of the most talented teams I've on paper, and they were also really good. They were one quarter away from knocking the Lakers away from doing the beginning of their three-peat, actually, believe it or not. So, just to name off a few guys that you might know, you got Scottie Pippen, and most people know who Scottie is because of the years with the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan. You you also had a guy that was, quite frankly, kind of before his time when it comes to like the way he played the game, was Arvydas Sabonis. 7'3", dude could shoot threes. You should. You also have Rasheed Wallace, Damon Stoudemire, Steve Smith, Detlef Schrempf, Jermaine O'Neal, a young Jermaine O'Neal. You got Brian Grant, Greg Anthony, Stacey Augmon, like quite the squad there in Portland. Bonzi Wells, like they, quite frankly, this team was very good. They just, unfortunately, they lacked an alpha. They lacked the true number one. Scottie Pippen, as much as people will say he was a number one, he was not. Unfortunately, he was not. He was always a number two, and it showed when Jordan left the Bulls there for 18 months. He wasn't. They didn't win without Jordan. They didn't win with Scottie there, just Scottie there. So Jordan was the piece that they always needed, and now I gotta say, this team had the 2000 Lakers, on the brink. They were up 15 points in the fourth quarter. Lakers came roaring all the way back, and Lakers. We saw the one of the craziest moments in NBA history when the iconic alley oop from Kobe to Shaq happened, and then Shaq going absolutely bonkers after that happened. Another team that I will actually go to great lengths to talk about tonight is the 2002 Sacramento Kings. This team whether I want to say they got screwed or not doesn't change the fact that they lost. But this team had a rookie Gerald Wallace. You had Chris Webber, one of the best point forwards of all time. You had Peja Stojakovic, a young Hedo Turkoglu. You have Bobby Jackson, Vlade Divac, Doug Christie, and Mike Bibby. This squad was one of the best, well put together teams of all time, and they lost 4-3 in the Western Conference Finals against the Lakers. That team, quite frankly, Bibby was very good. Doug Christie was a lockdown defender. Vlade was just Vlade. But as a Lakers fan, I was really happy when they lost because, well, the Lakers repeated after that. They smoked the Nets. Another couple teams I can ramble off right off the bat from that same era, guys. The 2001 Sixers that made it all the way to the finals against the Lakers, and then they lost to them 4-1. That was their only one. Oddly enough, it was their only time ever losing a game that playoff. That Lakers team is considered one of the greatest Laker teams of all time, actually. But believe it or not, that 2001 Sixers team was actually very undermanned for making it to the finals as it was. They had Allen Iverson, of course, Raja Bell, Jermaine Jones, Tony Kukoc, George Lynch, Vernon Maxwell. And by that point, Maxwell was towards the end of his career. Aaron McKee, Najir Muhammad, Dikembe Mutombo, Kevin Ollie, Theo Ratliff, Eric Snow. Like, that team, unfortunately, like, Dikembe Mutombo and Allen Iverson are probably the two best players on that roster. But it sucks that Iverson and the Sixers never got a ring. But McKee, I think, was a good player. Theo Ratliff, he was all right. Eric Snow played a long time in the league. Just to name off a few others. We got to talk about the 2007 Suns. I know we already talked about the 93 Suns a little bit, but we'll talk more about them. This team was so good. They in a lot of ways, a lot of their fingerprints are on today's NBA. You got Raja Bell, Leonardo Barbosa, Boris Diaw, Jermaine Jones. Jermaine Jones made it on this team too. Sean Marion, Steve Nash, Jalen Rose, Amari Stoudemire, Kurt Thomas. Like, this was a good squad. They were one of the best teams in the league. They won 61 games and they got exposed in the second round of the playoffs against the Spurs because they weren't if there was any drawback. Oh yeah, Supersonics, I can agree with you on that there, JU. The 06-07 Suns though, their fingerprints are all over today's NBA because of how teams do their fast-paced offenses and do the 5-out and all that. But they got exposed because they didn't have a good defensive squad. You also had Steve Nash MVP from this season. And because JU pointed out the Sonics, let's talk about that Sonics squad. Oh, of course you're gonna call them the OKC Thunder, you fuckers. 95, 96. There we go. 64-18 Sonics. That, and to some of you guys that are watching, who knows? You might not know who the Sonics are, but guess what? You're about to. You had the glove Gary Payton, who won the Defensive Player of the Year that year. There's only 3 guards ever in NBA history to ever win the Defensive Player of the Year. Gary Payton's one of them. Jordan's another one. So, just so you're aware. We got Sam Perkins, Nate McMillan, Sean Kemp. Yes, I know, Sean Kemp. Wait, Eric Snow was on this team as a rookie? Damn. Okay. Detlef Schrempf, shades of that Blazers team that I had already brought up. Sam Perkins, Gary Payton, Nate McMillan, Sean Kemp, Irvin Johnson, Hershey Hawkins. Squad was pretty stacked. Made it all the way to the finals, and they lost in 6 to Jordan and the Bulls. You could easily say that if Jordan and the Bulls dynasty doesn't exist, Sonics probably have a ring, Jazz probably have 2 rings, and possibly the Knicks could have won. Actually, no, the Knicks didn't even... the Knicks could have won. That's the thing. They wouldn't have had the East so crazy. Same with the Magic. Just the whole NBA could have been different if they didn't run into Jordan and the Bulls. A couple other teams I'd like to mention is some of the Pacers teams from back in the day. Especially that 2000 squad that lost to the Lakers. They were also really good. Anybody else want to point out a couple teams that broke your heart a little bit as a sports fan? You know, I'm going to point one out for everybody. The 2010-2011 Bulls that went 62-20 that year. Derrick Rose, MVP. They lost 4-1 to the Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals. Those Bulls teams, just in general, guys, like, of the early 2010s, they were so fun. Like, it's the biggest what if in NBA history, Derrick Rose. That team, those teams were good. They just weren't good enough. They didn't have enough offense built around. Like, Derrick Rose was the main offense, and that's the reason why he got hurt, because there was no one else to help the guy. But those teams were very exciting to watch when Rose was on the floor and everything. We can't go without talking about the 98 Utah Jazz. Realistically, we can't. Utah Jazz won 62 games in 98. Thought they had what it took to be able to take down Jordan and the Bulls the second go around, and they lost in 6. And we all know how that ended. It turned into many different documentaries, guys, including The Last Dance. Seeing Jordan's last shot as a Chicago Bull be a game winner in the finals. But this team, they were loaded. They had the Hall of Famer John Stockton. They had the Hall of Famer Karl Malone, a.k.a. the Mailman. Stockton, still, in my opinion, doesn't get talked about enough as one of the greatest point guards of all time. Stockton was amazing. You had Outside of that, you had Jeff Hornacek, you had Howard Easley, um, and Greg Ostertag. Outside of that, this team wasn't too crazy, but they had enough where they should have beat the Bulls, especially because they 4-0'd the Lakers back in '98 too. That was a young Kobe though, but that was basically the end of the rope for the Jazz at that point because the Jazz didn't ever make it back to the finals after that. Another team that should have won it was that '95 Magic team that ended up losing to Houston. You could even say the '93, '94 Knicks as well, guys. But Stockton, my all small white guys, all us small white guys feel like could have actually played in the NBA. Oh, made all of us small white guys. He made us feel like we could actually play in the NBA. Facts. He wasn't a very big dude by any means. He just played it with a lot of energy and effort. One of the best assist mans of all time. Like, just to back that up for anybody else watching, from 87, 88 season all the way to 95, 96, Stockton literally led the league in assists, averaging over 1,000 assists per season, except for two times during that stretch where he had 987 and 92 93, and then he had 916 and 95 96. That is crazy to me. Led the league in assists so many times. That to me that's impressive because I'm looking at assist numbers. How many guys have actually hit over 1,000 assists in a season? Isaiah Thomas did it one time. Kevin Porter did it one time. That's it. Only two other guys have ever gotten over 1,000 assists in a season. Coincidence? Not even the great Magic Johnson got over 1,000 assists. Got close. He didn't get 1,000 though. It's crazy how much Jordan dominated points wise. He he scored the most points every season from 86 to 92, 93. Robinson and then Shaq scored the most points in 93, 94, and 94, 95. And then Jordan took that title back over until 98 when he retired. So essentially every year that Jordan was in the league, he was the scoring champ. He had the most points scored. Plus Jordan in his rookie year had the most points. That's insane. As a fucking rookie, he had the most points scored. And people want to say Kobe didn't dominate. 2002, 2003 had 2,461 points. He also led the league in overall scoring in 0203, 0506, 0607, and 0708. That's actually wild. Scoring over 2,000 points each of those times. Least amount of points in those years was 2,302 points scored. Oh wait, that's Iverson. My bad. Actually, 2,323 Kobe scored. That was the least amount of points he scored in a season when he led the league in scoring. but his highest was 2005, 2006, where he scored 2,832 points. That's crazy. He almost scored 3,000 points. No one other than Jordan has outscored him in the past 40 years. And Jordan outscored him twice. You can go as far back as you'd have to go as far back as Wilt Chamberlain all the way back in 63, 64, who scored more points. That's insane. So other than Jordan, you have Wilt Chamberlain that has scored more points than Kobe did in a season. That's actually insane. But back to the teams that should have won it. I am gonna highlight. Gotta highlight the 03-04 Lakers that won 56 games that year. The team that should have won and they didn't due to insane expectations, insane shit that was going on at the time with Kobe and his trial, and just also all the turmoil behind the scenes that little did nobody know there was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that nobody knew. Oh, here's an old name that I did not know was on the Lakers at that time. Justin, I wonder if you know this one, man. Emir Udoka. Freaking, you know him. Used to be the Celtics coach. Now he's he's Houston's coach. And now and back at that time he was a rookie in the league as a Laker. His first team was with the Lakers, and it was that 04 team that had Gary Payton, Derek Fisher, Kobe Bryant, Shaq, Karl Malone, Devin George, Horace Grant. Like, that team was loaded. Absolutely loaded. And they lost 4-1 to the Pistons in the finals. One of the greatest defensive teams of all time. And I can say that as a Lakers fan, man. That hats off to that Pistons team. Nobody gave the Pistons a shot. Like, I would love to know what was the oh shit. I don't want to see that. Kobe scored the most points in that series. That's crazy. Billups won the MVP. Does it tell me who was like the oh, it won't tell me who. That sucks. I was gonna ask if I was gonna see if it would tell me what what was the betting odds back then for that series, because I would have loved to know. Because I bet it would bet money that they were not even given a shot. And that Pistons team was really talented. You had the undrafted guy, Ben Wallace. You had Tayshaun Prince, Rasheed Wallace, Chauncey Billups. And to me, Sheed really changed that squad. Like, Sheed did really change that squad. Made that team a way better team. Another team I want to bring up from that same era from that same season was the 03-04 Timberwolves. What could have been if Sam Cassell doesn't get hurt and isn't able to play against the Lakers in that Western Conference Finals? You got Sam Cassell, Kevin Garnett. What? Damn, it did not know that. You got Wally Zerbiak, Gary Trent Sr., Latrell Sprewell, aka Mr. Chokyo Coach, Michael Olakandi. Like Olakandi was a I believe he was a first overall pick in the 2000 draft. I want to say, like he wasn't a terrible center. He just should have never been a first overall pick. He played 9 years in the league. He was nothing amazing, but he wasn't terrible either. He played long enough where he played 9 years in the league. Clippers were just a bunch of idiots. But that T Wolves team was good for sure. Let me think. What are some other great teams that didn't win? Oh, I really gotta fucking point this team out. The Dallas Mavericks team that won 67 games. And do not say 6-7, you fuckers. So you had Coach Avery Johnson, coached his team to 67-15 in the regular season. This is one of the most infamous teams because they were amazing. They had so much talent, but they sold the bag against the We Believe Warriors in the first round. They lost to an 8 seed. This team had Kevin Willis, Jason Terry, Jerry Stackhouse, Dirk Nowitzki. You had Devin Harris, Devin George, former Laker, Eric Dampier, the young JJ Barea as well. They had a lot of studs on that squad, and they ended up losing in 6 games to the We Believe Warriors. But that We Believe Warriors team, I'll even shout them out really fast. You had Steven Jackson, Al Harrington, Monte Ellis. You had Mike Dunleavy, Baron Davis, Matt Barnes, like that, Jason Richardson. Like that team was loaded with talent, dude. That that's a team that, like, in some ways, probably should have won a fucking championship. Um, I do have to shout out the '05. I think it's the '05, '06 Pacers squad. Was it that team? Was that this the team that got fucking? Was that the team that did the Malice at the Palace? Hey Google. Hey Google. My fucking stupid phone. Hey Google. What Indiana Pacers team was included in the Malice at the Palace? Was it the '05-06 Pacers? Okay, so it was the '04-05. Okay. They went 44-38. This team was nasty though. Like, this is a team that very well could have beaten Detroit had they not dealt with the suspensions of Ron Artest and Jermaine O'Neal and Steven Jackson. Like, all those guys ended up with pretty decent suspensions. Meta World Peace being eliminated from the season, basically. Um, But they had Ron Artest, they had Jermaine O'Neal, they had Reggie Miller, one of the greatest shooters of all time. You had Steven Jackson. You had Dale Davis, Jeff Foster. Good. They're not crazy names, but they were household names at that time. That team could have very well probably won the whole thing. I think we've talked quite a bit about basketball. Maybe we should go to football now, guys. When it comes to football, let's talk about quite frankly, let's talk about the um let's talk about the '07 Patriots, the 13 um Broncos. Like those were two teams that like fairly easily actually could have um won the Super Bowl and they didn't. Talk about some of the '80s and even some of the '90s Miami Dolphins teams with Dan Marino, the '87 Niners. Like if there's a lot of good teams that like should have won rings and they didn't. They just flat out didn't because shit just didn't go their way. Because realistically, you need to have a little bit of luck. So we're gonna go all the way back. Oh, geez. So football goes all the way back to the NFL. Technically, was 1922, but there's things that go all the way back to 1920. The Providence Steamrollers. Yo, that's actually kind of cool. So the Super Bowl era started in '66, guys. Spotlight. We're gonna talk about the. This is a throwback. We're talking about Super Bowl IV, the Minnesota Vikings, and the legendary Purple People Eaters defense. This team was very good defensively. They were one of the best defenses of all time. The best defenses of all time always get the cool last nicknames. Unfortunately, at that time, a lot of some stats were not like counted, but you had a guy with 15 sacks, Carl Eller. You had Jim Marshall with 14 sacks. Like between having two guys with that many sacks in a season, that's crazy to me. Plus, you had Gary Larson, a defensive tackle with 8. Then you had another defensive tackle, Alan Page, with 9. They had 49 total sacks on defense. That's crazy to me. That is actually crazy. And keep in mind, this is back when at a time where on the offensive end, you could hold a receiver quite a bit past the 5 yards. It ain't like it is nowadays, guys. That's why I say people don't give those older teams much credit. Let's talk about the '83 Washington Redskins, guys. One of the greatest teams in history. They were they were outscoring opponents. They were only allowing 20 points a game, and they scored 541 points, first in the NFL, averaging about almost 34 points a game that year. They steamrolled the Rams 51-7 in the first their first playoff game. Edged out the Joe Montana 49ers at 24-21. That Niners team was nothing to laugh about by any means. Because they still had the future Hall of Famer Roger Craig, and of course, oh wait, where the hell is? They not have Jerry Rice? Oh, they did not have Jerry. They did not have Jerry at that time. That, but still, that was a good 49ers squad nonetheless. That Redskins squad though, yeah, Joe Theismann, who won the NFL MVP that year. He went 14-2, had 29 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. That's really good for back then. Almost 4,000 yards passing. And he still got sacked 34 times, which is crazy. Purple People Eaters, LOL, that's great. Appreciate the chats there, JU. I appreciate you, man. And then you had one of the greatest, I should say, grittiest running backs of all time in John Riggins. He had, and he, more or less, kind of a fullback. He was a bruiser. He had 24 touchdowns, which was the NFL record until LaDainian Tomlinson broke that record, actually. He had almost 1,400 yards playing in only in 15 games. He missed one game. He had 24 touchdowns. Very little help in the receiving side of things. You had Art Monk on that team as well as a receiver. Art Monk, anybody don't know, Art Monk, one of the great wide receivers. He had over 12,000 yards in his career. He had 68 touchdowns in his career as well, in a much different time at that when it comes to how players played back then. But team very good. You had the Hall of Famer Darrell Green. Is he? He was not. Oh, yeah, I was about to say, he definitely had to have been a Hall of Famer. Played in 295 games throughout his career. Played from 83 to 2002. He was still playing D-back at 42 years old. That is insane to me. Playing in 16 games. Starting in 4 of them. Dude, that is crazy. 42 years old? You were playing in the NFL as a D-back? That's a long career for. And in that 20-year career, he had 54 interceptions. 6 of them turned into touchdowns. Darrell Green, one of the greatest defensive players of all time. Was this the team that had Todd Smokeball on it? No, they did not have Todd Smokeball. That must have been the 87 team. But nonetheless, a very good squad that didn't end up winning the ring at that time. And you can't go without talking about the 90s Bills. Just the 90s Bills in general. You can't even just spotlight one exact team. Going to 4 straight Super Bowls, losing to the Giants, losing to the Skins, losing to the Cowboys 2 years in a row. Both times basically getting their asses handed to them. Like, those Bills teams had the Hall of Famer Jim Kelly, one of the greatest running backs in football history, and Thurman Thomas. Like, And Thurman don't get enough credit. Thurman, absolutely one of the greatest to ever do it. He played 13 years as a running back. Go and through that entire beautiful run of being on those Buffalo teams from 1989 all the way to 96, he rushed for over 1,000 yards every single year. Very consistent running back. And in some of those years, he wasn't even playing all 16 games. But yes, Thurman Thomas, one of the greatest to ever do it. And when it comes to wide receivers, you had one of the greatest of all time, James Lofton, with over 14,000 yards, 75 touchdowns in his career, splitting his time between Buffalo and Green Bay most of his career. He was on Buffalo from, and this he was on some good teams in Buffalo from '89 all the way to he was there until '92 as a D-bag. I said D-back. D-back, you fucker. D-back. You man's twisting my words on me. That is crazy. Yo. Oh my god. But just to spotlight just the 90 team, which was very close to winning the whole thing. Scott Norwood missed a game-winning field goal as time expired, and the Giants won the Super Bowl in 1990. And that is the closest, realistically, they ever got. They lost to the Skins 37-24 in 91. They lost to the Cowboys 52-17. That was the biggest ass kicking. And then they lost to the Cowboys again 30-13 the following year. But every single one of those years, they had won double-digit wins every single year. They just were not good enough to beat those teams. And to be fair, the Giants' defense in 1990 was one of the greatest we've seen, especially because you know who was on that defense. Oh shit, my screen just went for a second. Oh, that was scary. In other words, the greatest linebacker in the history of history, Lawrence Taylor, was on that defense. In his career, to put in perspective, there's only two guys to ever win the MVP as a defensive player, and he's one of them. The other guy won it back in the fucking 60s. That's why I always say Lawrence Taylor is the greatest defensive player that's ever lived. How do you win Defensive Player of the Year, MVP, and Pro Bowl all in one season? Oh, easy. He had 20 and a half sacks. Like, he had 20 and a half sacks. And Lawrence Taylor reached double-digit sacks from 84 to 1990. He was hitting double-digit sacks every single year. And he trailed off a little bit towards the end of his career. He played all the way to 93. Almost feels like he kind of held on a little long there. But those teams were still relatively good, though. Though I will say 93, they got their fucking asses waxed by 40. Yuck! That's an ass kicking. Good old fashioned ass kicking. But back to what the main topic is. There we go. 84 Dolphins made it all the way to the Super Bowl, and they got absolutely waxed by the Niners. 84 Dolphins had Dan Marino, at that time, a record-breaking offense with over 5,000 yards passing. And that was back in the 80s, guys. Dan Marino was way before his time. He would be perfect in today's NFL because of the pass-first mentality. He had over 5,000 yards, which was an NFL record at the time. And he completed 64% of his passes. He had 48 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. He won the MVP, the Offensive Player of the Year, and went to the Pro Bowl. He had great, just overall, throwing to good receivers. Mark Clayton, Mark Duper, the two Monks. Like, that team was very good. They just did not have it all together, as you can tell at the end. They got waxed. Because they waxed Seattle and they waxed Pittsburgh on their way to going to the Super Bowl. But to be fair, that 84 Dolphins team, that 84 Niners team wasn't anything to, laugh about. They went 15-1 in the season. So in the grand scheme of things, they went 16, 17, 18-1 on their way to a Super Bowl. Their only loss was Pittsburgh back in Week 7. So, in other words, they went on a tear. They didn't lose a game at that point. Last time they had lost a game was October 14th of 83. So, yeah. And that team was really good. That was a very good. Joe Montana also putting in a great season as well. 28 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. He also had Roger Craig there, who had a pretty solid season with Wendell Tyler, who also had a really good season at running back. This is still before the Jerry Rice days, though, guys. And Joe Montana still was money. Some of the other great teams. I have to take the opportunity to shout out one of my favorite Jets teams of all time. Team that could have gone to the Super Bowl. Very well could have gone to the Super Bowl. And that was the 2010 Jets, the last time they made the playoffs. They beat Peyton Manning in the wild card round. They beat New England in the divisional playoff, and they barely lost to Pittsburgh, 24-19 in Pittsburgh, highlighted by the can't wait speech by Bart Scott after beating New England in New England, which is something that didn't happen very much at that time. Mark Sanchez had 17 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. Nothing too crazy. He had over 3,000 yards passing. They went 11-5 that year. They had the great LaDainian Tomlinson, almost 1,000 yards rushing with 6 touchdowns. He wasn't the same by that point, but he was still really good. And you had Sean Green that chipped in over 700 yards as well in the running game. But what stood out was you had Santonio Holmes there, Braylon Edwards, Jericho Cotchery, and that squad. I don't care what anybody says. That team is one of the greatest Jets teams ever. They had great players in David Harris and Bart Scott, Antonio Cromartie and the Revis Island. They had Kelvin Pace. They had the Hall of Famer Jason Taylor on that squad. Like that team I look back on very fondly. I really do. That is one of my favorite teams of all time. And you could even say the same thing about the 2009 team that they made it back to they made it to AFC Championship games in '09 and 10, only to fall short in both. Another I gotta say it, another team that like I don't know that they would have won a Super Bowl from the Jets side of things, but the 2015 New York Jets, they went 10-6. They had one of the best offenses in their history, and quite frankly, one of the most iconic wide receiver duos in Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker. Fitzpatrick, who owns the record for most touchdowns and most yards in a season by a Jets quarterback, he had almost 4,000 yards and 31 touchdowns in the season. And you had Brandon Marshall, who had 1,500 yards and 14 touchdowns. Eric Decker with over 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns. One of the best duo seasons ever by two receivers on the same team. Quite frankly, we'll never forget that season, no matter how bad it ended with the Jets losing to Buffalo. Dude, I was so pissed. I was punching the steering wheel. I was so fucking pissed. I was raging on that game. I've never been so disappointed because I thought, hey, we're going back to the playoffs. I didn't think we were gonna win the Super Bowl by any means, but I was just happy to see them make it back. But nope, Buffalo shit on our parade, and nonetheless, our old head coach Rex Ryan, who had just gotten fired the previous year too, which is quite frankly kind of funny. And looking back on it now, that also I will say shout out that 2015 Carolina Panthers squad, the team that made it to the Super Bowl. They ended up losing to the eventual Super Bowl champion Denver Broncos with a very hobbled Peyton Manning. To me, I would have liked to see Carolina win the whole thing that year. Another team I'll shout out is the 2008 Arizona Cardinals. The '08 Cardinals, led by Hall of Famer and former grocery clerk Kurt Warner. They make it in 9-7, win their division. They beat Atlanta. They beat the shit out of Carolina. They edge out a win in the conference championship against the Eagles, and then we all know how this went. The Steelers and Santonio Holmes win the Super Bowl off one of the craziest catches in Super Bowl history. Jets won a Super Bowl way back in 1968 or 69. I think it was January of 69 there, JU. Kind of sucks that. Yeah, if I scroll all the way back. This is 1968 season. The Jets went 11-3. They beat the 13-1 Baltimore Colts. That's crazy. No wonder why they're considered an underdog in that Super Bowl. But also, the last two Super Bowls the NFL had won, not the AFL. And then the AFL won consistently back to back. Then it became called the AFC and the NFC. And the AFC won again by winning with the AFC's first champion was the Baltimore Colts. Another team I'll shout out: '03 Carolina Panthers with Jake Delhomme, Steve Smith, Musha Muhammad. They lost to the Patriots in the Super Bowl. They had Stephen Davis over 1,400 yards running. You had Steve Smith, Musha Muhammad, Deshaun Foster was there too. Kevin Dyson, Ricky Prohl. This is also the team that had Chris Jenkins, Julius Peppers. Like, they had a good defense. But unfortunately, just not good enough. I might want to start collecting pop mascots. That actually sounds pretty cool there, man. I would I would love to see that. Also, what are you doing Monday, my friend? Would you care if I stop by after work? Let's say it's I was gonna shout out the Broncos teams from the '80s. Made it to the Super Bowl 3 out of 4 years. Lost every single time. Lost to the Giants in '86. Lost to the Skins in '87. And then made it back in '89 and lost to the Niners, who won back to back. I'm gonna be out of work by 10, man. So it won't. So unless you don't want me stopping by that late, that's up to you, brother. Uh, oh, but yeah, for the most part, think I've hit a lot of the teams that I've wanted to tonight when it comes to football. Plenty of time. Dope. So nice, man. I'll definitely have to come over and hang out with you, brother. I do want to take a quick minute and there's one specific baseball team I really want to shout out. It's actually one of my brother's favorite. It's my brother's favorite team. It is the '94 Montreal Expos. And reason why I specifically the crab creature. Okay, I'll give it a shot. So at the time when baseball stopped their season due to a player strike, the Montreal Expos were the best team in the National League with 74 wins on the year. And if I remember right, they were the best team in baseball, if I recall. Yeah, they had the most the high facts. I want to see the Expos come back. you root for those fuckers, that's for sure. 74 and 40. They were the best team in baseball at that time back in 94. They had Moses Alou, Larry Walker, Marquise Grissom, Rondell White. They also had players like Tim Raines there as well, guys. If I remember right. But the biggest players on that list, and a lot of people will know these two names, would be John Wetland and then Pedro Martinez. A lot of people know Pedro Martinez because of the fact that he pitched for the Red Sox. But little did anybody know, he started off as a Dodger and then played 5 seasons with the Montreal Expos before he went to Boston. And he won a Cy Young Award with Montreal. So, one of the best pitchers in baseball. The year that he won the Cy Young Award with Montreal, he had a 1.90 ERA. Which is basically, in other words, unfucking hittable. He had 13 complete games. 4 of those were shutouts. He pitched 241 innings, most ever in his career. He had never pitched that many the rest of his career. But like that Expo squad, it had a lot of people will say, had that season not been canceled due to cut short due to and not having a playoff either, due to them doing that, a lot of people will say that the Expos probably would have won the World Series that year, and they potentially would have gone against the New York Yankees in the World Series. And that Yankee squad also, will shout out them: Don Mattingly, Bernie Williams, Paul O'Neill, Wade Boggs, as some of the big names. You also can go over to the pitching. You got Jimmy Key, who had 17 wins that year and 4 losses. He was in the middle of a career year. The rest of the guys kind of middle of the road, 9 and 8. Jim Abbott, Melito Perez with 9 and 4. Hey, Bob Wickman in 53 games, he was pitching a 3.09 ERA. As one of the relievers, Steve Howe with a 1.80 ERA as the closer. Team was not bad. It would have been an amazing World Series to see both those teams square off. Too bad shit got selfish when it comes to the Players Association and the owners, and that was tough. Also, I'm going to shout out the 97 Cleveland Indians really fast. The Cleveland Indians of 97 had a very stellar lineup. David Justice, Manny Ramirez, Marquise Grissom, Brian Giles, Matt Williams, Omar Vizquel, Jim Thome, and Sandy Alomar. All very good when it comes to. And then you also have the old man Julio Franco. And I gotta spotlight this man really quick. Julio Franco played from 1982 all the way to 2007. Hands down, one of the longest careers in MLB history. 23 years in the league. Started off as a 23-year-old, ended as a 48-year-old man. Playing 8 years with Cleveland, 6 years with Atlanta, 5 with Texas, 2 with the Mets, 1 with the White Sox, 1 with Milwaukee, 1 with Philly, and Who was the TBD? Oh, the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. Oh my God, I kind of forget that they used to be called the Devil Rays. That's actually funny. But he played forever. Wait, they have his Mexican, Japanese, and Korean league stats. Oh God, how long did he play for then? I'm curious if he ended up. He played over in the Mexican League in AAA at 49 years old. Then he came back again in 2014 to play for Fort Worth at 55. Man was playing at 55 fucking years old, dude. That is actually crazy to me. Man was playing at 55. Kudos to him that he could still play at that point in his life, dude. That is amazing to me. Playing at 55 years old, playing the game you love. Why not, man? But shout out Julio Franco. Shout out that Cleveland Indians squad. That they were the runner-ups in the World Series. They lost to the Florida Marlins in '97. Positions, he actually played a couple different ones. Let me go back over to him. Played shortstop, second base, and first base. Those are the three positions he played throughout his career. I would imagine he was playing DH by that point. Like, definitely gonna look at his defensive, his appearances and stuff like that. Yeah, he played little fielding by that point in his career. Almost past like by the time he passed 91, it looks like he had some appearances in the field, but like nowhere near the amount that he had like his last year where he's playing he last few seasons where he played a ton on defense were 96 at 37, 95 plays on in 2002 as a 43-year-old and 84 plays as 45-year-old uh, in 2004, which is still crazy. I feel like baseball doesn't take as hard a toll on your body as some other sports. That for sure. I will say though, playing in the infield, I don't know what's worse, playing infield or outfield. I feel like outfield's got to be worse on your legs and stuff than it. But also, you got to be a lot quicker in the infield. I feel like. That just still blows my mind that he was playing that late in his career. Another team I want to shout out, the 2001 Mariners. The 2001 Mariners were also they had the basically the most wins all time, tied only with the uh, yeah, that's for sure a long time in a professional sport. I wonder who the longest who had the longest oh wait, Jerry Rice I think had the longest career in football. He had over 20 seasons in the NFL. And that was as a wide receiver. In basketball, it's LeBron. I know that for a fact. But the 01 Seattle Mariners. I want to shout them out really quick. 116 games and 46 losses. Tied with a old Cubs team from like the early 1900s. Jesus. They had their pitching staff was insane. Garcia had 18 wins. Zelli had 15. Jamie Moyer had 20. Paul Abbott had 17. Damn, dude. They had fucking 4 Cy Young pitchers right on one fucking roster, man. Say it takes the worst toll on your body other than MMA. Maybe hockey also be up there as well, which I do want to talk about hockey as well a little bit. Hey Google, who had the longest hockey career? Jaromir Jagr holds the record for the longest professional ice hockey career, spanning over. Oh man, dude's got LeBron. He's got everyone fucking beat, dude. Jaromir Jagr played over 37 seasons since making his pro debut in '88. That is crazy. Over 37 seasons? Dude. But in terms of just the National Hockey League, if you're not talking about other leagues, Gordie Howe and Chris Chelios share the record for most NHL seasons played with 26 seasons each. They still got LeBron and a lot of other guys beat, dude. That is actually wild to me. 26 seasons? But, dude, Jaromir Jagr with 37 seasons is pretty fucking wild. I was gonna say, how long did Gretzky play? Gretzky had to play for a long time, too. He played until he's 38. Played 20 seasons. He started when he was 18, playing for the minor league team. Got called up as a 19-year-old for Edmonton. Played from Edmonton all the way to from 19 to 27. Played with the Kings from 20 when he was 28 all the way to 35. 35. Played 1 year with St. Louis and then played his last 3 years with the Rangers. Yeah, football is definitely football and hockey. Football, hockey, and MMA. Those are the three that take a massive toll on your body. We are getting closer and closer to our 1 o'clock time. Dude, that's crazy. It's so weird to see the NHL season was canceled in 04-05. Did they even play any games that year? No, they didn't play at all. That's crazy. I wasn't sure. I had to think about that for a second. I'm like, did they? I'm like, no, they didn't because I remember that was such a big deal because I had the hockey game for that season, man. They never played a season that year. That really hurt hockey, though, quite frankly, when they did that. That hurt hockey a lot. Oh yeah, the year after the lockout, Carolina Hurricanes won it all. Then the Ducks, the Red Wings, the Penguins, and then my Blackhawks, they won. Then the fucking Bruins won. Kings. Then my Blackhawks returned to glory again. Kings won again. Then Blackhawks won their last one. That was it. Blues, the Tampa Bay Lightning. Yeah, the Lightning, the Avalanche, the Vegas Golden Fox, the Panthers, and then the Hurricanes won it after 20 years. Get tired. I'm running out of teams to talk about. Anybody else want to throw some teams out there for me in the chats? Any other teams you guys want to hear about? Hear me talk about? Good night, brother. Have a wonderful night. Sleep well, and I'll see you. I'll see you for tomorrow's stream there, broski. Have a good one, man. And I think that's gonna be my cue to say good night to everyone as well. God bless. Love you all. Appreciate you all. Have a wonderful night, everyone. Thank you all that tuned in. Appreciate you, Justin. I always appreciate you popping in on the streams, man. It means a lot to me, dude. Have a good one, guys. Thank you all.